true litmus miracle. They see me lit and they whacking. I'm lit and dirty. Oh, he's lit and dirty.
Merry litmus, everybody!
Alright, that's that finally out of the way then. Time to get the hell out of here. Okay, what do I review next? Roguelite? Nah, I think Mortem called dibs on that one. Do I dare tackle an anthology? Covering Far Cry right now would actually kill me, I think. What else could I do? The Quarry? Too many people would be needed. Outlast? Maybe some other time. I want to find something quick and easy that wouldn't be a major time sink for me. Come on, think. A sale! Perfect. Surely there's something in here that I can review. Let's have a gander here. No. Nah. Come on, surely there's something good in here. Dinosaur Hunt Special Edition? Around 13 bucks? It's normally around 100? Guess I'll give it a try. What the f- Alright gang, it's time to put on the big boy pants. On today's enthralling episode of Wack or Lit, I'm going to be tackling the numerous goodies that come with the purchase of one Dinosaur Hunt Special Edition while I wait for a certain someone to get cracking on his video. Now, this bundle of miscellaneous items was concocted by a man who goes by... I'm gonna be perfectly honest here, I don't know how to pronounce this, and frankly I'm too afraid to try. Anyways, they're all published by...
Unpause.
And they're all developed by some group named Racing Bros. Now, I tried to do as much research as I could while looking into Racing Bros, and here's what I came up with. Notice how there's nothing there? I couldn't find any real information about them specifically despite my best efforts. It appears as though they don't have a website solely devoted to them and all of their games. All of their apps on the multiple different app stores that they reside in all link back to
Unpause.
it seems. With that in mind, I think that Racing Bros is in fact just
Unpause.
under a different title. For the sake of easing my migraine, I'm now just going to refer to all the apps as his. With that out of the way, let's dive deeper into the lore of the man behind Dinosaur Hunt. The earliest that I can trace his work to is a vast collection of apps ranging from 2013 to present on the Apple, Google, and Amazon app stores. What's kind of strange, however, is that for each of these stores he uses a different name. On Amazon, he uses his username of
Unpause.
On Google, he goes under his group Racing Bros, and then on Apple, he uses what I am now going to assume is his actual name,
Paweł Terlecki.
Now, Pavel's apps range from what, as far as I can tell, is his first documented app, Gravity Run, which is at first glance a jetpack joyride clone of sorts, to one of his big niches with various vehicle quote-unquote simulators, to his other big niche of hunting simulators, with various random topics sprinkled in between. Across the board, they don't look too amazing and seem awfully simplistic, but maybe I'm wrong, who knows. Personally, I'm not going to go through the time and effort of downloading and playing over 100 mediocre apps, so I'm just going to acknowledge that they exist and then shove them back in the void. That being said, while Pavel has spent multiple years building his app catalog, he also evidently has made numerous efforts with PC gaming. While not all of his niches appear to have made the jump from phone to computer, by the looks of things, his hunting efforts seem to have grown the most on Steam with this bundle. And now, it's time to finally get into the game for which the bundle gets its name, Dinosaur Hunt. Dinosaur Hunt was released on Steam on September 17th, 2015, originally under the title Dinosaur Hunt Africa Contract. This game originally started as an app that Pavel released towards the end of 2014 on the various app stores I previously mentioned. Now, based on the images and footage I've seen of both the app and the PC release compared to how it's marketed currently, the game now is almost nothing like it was originally. Looking at it, maybe that's for the best. Regardless, Dinosaur Hunt is Pavel's first game to see a Steam release as far as I can see. It's also seemingly treated as his magnum opus with how many times it sat front and center among his other work. For his website, Pavel puts Dinosaur Hunt as the main focus, and that website is plugged everywhere feasible, all across his social media and app store presence. Going a step further, the trailer alone for Dinosaur Hunt is present all over too. It takes up the most space on his website, it's his channel trailer for both his YouTube and his Twitch. Even for his Steam group, he has a curated review of his own game saying, "Here's me playing Dinosaur Hunt, don't judge me." And instead of it being a review or actual gameplay, it's just the trailer. Fun fact, the trailer doesn't even contain any gameplay in it either, and instead it's just a mix of white text on a black background in between quick shots of dinosaurs doing their thing in a ruined city. Anyways, with all of this Dinosaur Hunt being shoved in one's face, it then begs the question of just what exactly is Dinosaur Hunt? The answer to this question really just relies on where exactly you're looking to get it from. Pavel himself on the game's Steam page describes it as
an intense action shooter that will take you on an epic journey of hunting the world's most horrifying animals.
in that its story is
Mind-blowing and will make you crying in the corner.
Meanwhile, if you consult the ever-insightful trailer, it prophesizes something along the lines of genetic engineering having gone too far in the future and seemingly being the cause for the dinosaurs wreaking havoc in modern society. Then finally, if you look towards the ever-so-helpful Steam reviews page, you get the privilege of bearing witness to the highest form of thinking imaginable with examples such as, "Not good. There's no sex. We need more sex. Make sex mod, please." And
What?
now that's a common theme with Steam reviews, it's gotta be said, where you're gonna get a bunch of doorknobs who make ironic reviews that serve to muck up a game's actual score as a joke.
I've had a good chuckle over that one. I'm coming after you.
Personally, I'm not too big a fan of gag reviews as they take away from the whole point of the system, but seeing as to how our main goal is solely centered around determining whether a game is whack or lit, I don't think I have much ground to stand on. Regardless, there do exist a ton of legitimate reviews of this game discussing the pros and seemingly more glaring cons that I suggest you look at if you're considering purchasing the game for yourself. Anyways, moving back to the main focus of the video here, with that information gathered, my personal opinion of Dinosaur Hunt was that of, oh boy, I'm gonna be able to hunt down all kinds of dinosaurs in a world of chaos as I learn how things got to be this way through an intriguing story?
The lad deserves to enjoy his final hours.
What instead happened was, that idea was put into a box, that was then placed into a larger box, that was then sent to Pavel, who proceeded to
A massive hammer! It's brilliant, 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 I tell you! Genius, I say!
Now, I can already hear you thinking to yourself, surely it's not that bad, right? It is. It definitely is. What was once an extremely buggy hunting game on release, over the years has turned into a seemingly feature-full but overall content-dry experience that left me feeling disappointed on multiple levels. Right out of the gate, the menu UI for the game leaves much to be desired with its overly simplistic design. When you couple that with a dash of migraine-inducing audio comprised of non-stop rock instrumental and various noises, this shit is awful. You get an experience prompting you to make a decision as to where you need to go as quickly as possible. I get that Pavel likes rock music, and I'm not gonna bash him for sharing his interests with us, but hearing the same rock instrumentals on loop gets to you after so long, so while it was initially tolerable, I eventually opted to switch it off to get some peace and quiet. The UI also consists of a wide variety of options, each with their own set of options, creating this vast web of different buttons to press that each do their own thing. It can honestly get to be a bit overwhelming after looking at it for so long, and eventually everything just starts to mesh together for me. I'll go more in depth about these options and the rest of the menu later on, don't worry, but for now, it's time to take on the main chunk of content here that the game has to offer. Okay, starting off light, I'll walk you through the sequence consisting of the tutorial. Upon loading in, you're spawned in an area of terrain completely walled off. As you explore the area like a babe in the woods, there's strings of text crawling across the screen telling you some of the ins and outs of the game, such as how to run, jump, pick up weapons, etc. You get your spread of weapons to choose from laid out on the floor for you, and you get 3 total slots of inventory to hold stuff. After gearing up and wading through the essays worth of hints and tips, you get told that since it's just a tutorial, you're gonna get off easy and only have to fight 1 dinosaur. Upon reading that, the beast is promptly set loose. The adrenaline starts pumping. This is it! You can see on your minimap a red object slowly approaching your location. You ready yourself for the confrontation of a lifetime and...
Hail the greatest warrior!
Wait, that's it? That doesn't seem very fair. You are entirely correct. It was not fair and it was never supposed to be. The way this game works is, instead of actually hunting something down, you fight waves of dinosaurs as they make a beeline to your general location before getting torn to comedically overdone giblets by your bullets. It's good for a bit of neuron activation, I think, but for me, it got stale very fast. Don't worry, I'll explain more in a bit, but I want to switch gears and do a rundown of the story that was promised to leave me quote-unquote crying in the corner. The main meat of this game is the campaign, which follows a story over the course of multiple levels, taking you to a variety of locations going against everything Paul could afford to throw at you. The actual gameplay, however, doesn't match up to the story at all, and instead just pits you against a wave of enemies to kill in between loading screens that consist of narrated exposition dumps over a still image. But enough about that. It's story time, gang, so grab a beverage and get nice and comfy. Fair warning though, there are no official images or videos associated with what I'm about to tell you, so I had to take some liberties and give my own visual aid. Now, without further ado, the story of Dinosaur Hunt. We open on 4 soldiers, Daryl, Franco, Tommy, and the narrator. They've all been brought to this secret military base for an unknown reason and are greeted by a general who explains the situation. He informs the soldiers about a new island dubbed Nowhere Island, and that as of 72 hours ago, the island didn't even exist. On top of that, as of 60 hours ago, the government sent a team out to investigate the island, and then upon getting there, all contact was seemingly lost. After some time, the decision was made to assemble a second team of the best, meaning these 4 chucklenuts, to find the first team and explore the island, figuring out what happened there. Once that's done, a third team would be sent to run cleanup after the second team finds the first team. There's just... there's a lot of teams being hypothesized here, okay? Anyways, the soldiers are given their assignment and are shipped off to do whatever it is that they do best. Upon arriving on the island, the 4 of them start their mission and begin their search for the original team. Literally only a few minutes into their search, the chit-chat already has started with Franco bragging to Daryl that if Daryl were to die for some unforeseen reason, Franco would then be in charge of the squad. And as soon as those words left his lips, something started to move in the bushes. Without a moment to process what was going on, a T-Rex suddenly bursts through the foliage and rips Daryl to shreds. The remaining 3 soldiers flee the scene with the Rex not too far behind them, and they come across an armory that appears to be abandoned by some company named Nexus. Very original, I know. They immediately start looking for ways to arm themselves, and eventually Tommy whips out a rocket launcher just in time for a freak swarm of raptors to come from every direction. Unfortunately, Tommy had butterfingers and was unable to fire it and was swiftly lost in the sea of claws and scales. As the Rex catches up with the now halved squad, the narrator swims through the mob of raptors to grab the rocket launcher. He then steadies his aim and fires, blowing all the reptiles into red goo. Following the explosive encounter that just happened, Franco is, understandably, a big baby bitch about it. This is then immediately followed by him going completely batshit and rambling about the mysterious circumstances at play while he mourns the loss of half of his crew. Halfway through his rant, he's cut off by a strange voice over the radio. The voice belongs to some scientists who used to work on the island before shit hit the already caked up fan named Tanya, and she says that the team before them was supposed to rescue her and her now supposedly deceased colleagues. Upon realizing that the team originally sent is most likely dead, and that her co-workers are most likely dead, and now half of the second team sent to find the other team is dead, Tanya thinks it might be best to explain what exactly is going on here in order to better equip the narrator and Franco for what they're going to be dealing with. Now, of course, she can't say it over the radio, because why would anything be that easy? Tanya insists that the two of them meet her in person at her lab. She reveals that the two soldiers are stranded just like her due to the island having a built-in radio jammer preventing all communication with the outside world, and also gives them coordinates to her lab. With a new mission, the two soldiers head onward to pay Tanya a visit. After arriving at the lab, Tanya contacts them and says something along the lines of,
"Oopsie poopsie, forgot to unlock the door teehee."
Upon receiving this message, Franco and the narrator aren't too pleased, and then their mood sours even further upon seeing a horde of raptors spilling out of the jungle all around them. The two try their best to urge Tanya to quicken up the pace and unlock the door, to no avail as she proceeds to drop yet another truth bomb on them with,
"I actually don't know the code to unlock the door, and the guy that did is probably dead smiley face."
The two soldiers proceed to find a shotgun that shoots out acid and quickly dispatch the threats outside before Tanya manages to find a way to open the door, letting them inside. Upon entering the lab, the soldiers find a Triceratops next to a comically large and convenient hole in the wall that they could have easily just gone through instead of fighting. Tanya takes one look at it and then goes,
"Oh, probably should have mentioned that. My bad."
After saying that, the Trike decides they've had enough and wants to scrap, but that took a whole 2 seconds to get taken care of. After whatever the hell that was, Tanya sits them down and informs them that she and her colleagues used to work on something called the Nexus Project. After that lore bomb, Tanya tells the soldiers that Nowhere Island was a secret project concocted by a collaboration between multiple different governments and ultimately chosen to be hidden from the public eye. She then proceeds to nonchalantly mention that Roswell was real and that the alien technology recovered from the spacecraft was beyond what humanity was even remotely close to being capable of. As a result, the Nexus Project was started as a means to essentially win an arms race against a society that wasn't even being a threat. Nowhere Island essentially serves as a testing ground for various technological advancements such as the radio jammer and cloaking device that was previously used to conceal the island alongside the ever-present dinosaurs because, well, you know, they're dinosaurs. Tanya wasn't too sure about the dinosaurs' origins because turns out she's only an intern and doesn't really know jack shit. That being said, Tanya mentions that if there's anybody out there who would know more about their current situation, it'd be some professor named, Stone. As to whether or not this guy is alive, who the hell knows. Instead of looking to find him, however, Tanya suggests that they disable the generator powering the radio scrambler. Not a terrible idea, must be said, and with that, the group set off on their next task. After a little while, they reach the generator and happen to find the remains of the first team of soldiers sent to the island. The gang did not care. Franco asked Tanya how to turn the generator off, and Tanya, being the village idiot, has no fucking clue. While Franco starts cussing out Tanya for being completely fucking useless, they don't notice something sneaking into the cave they're in. The invader turns out to be another T-Rex, but this time mounted with 2 Gatling guns and wearing a metal faceplate. Rather than get scared shitless or fight it, the gang nonchalantly get back to fixing the generator. Eventually, they figure it out and are able to contact the general, but before they could finish, they get cut off by a mysterious voice. The voice belonged to the guy Tanya was talking about earlier, Stone. Stone wastes no time in getting his "I'm clearly going to be the villain here" mantra in swing and starts off his introduction with,
"I see you met some of my pets, teehee."
He then rambles on about some of his work and how the dinosaurs are like aliens, but also not aliens. He refuses to explain what he means and then just hangs up. After that enthralling exposition dump, 2 more Gatling Rexes show up and Tanya just straight up vanishes, leaving Franco and the narrator to clean up. With nowhere to really go, the two make their way back to the lab, and upon entering it, they hear Tanya scream and rush to find Stone holding her at gunpoint. He then says that the dinosaurs roaming the island was no accident and that he was doing his job by releasing them. Stone wanted to see how they would fare against the might of the government's top soldiers. Seeing as to how easily they got wiped out by Franco and the narrator, Stone has decided to switch things up a bit. He then proceeds to kidnap Tanya and they ride out, leaving the soldiers stranded yet again. After a tireless search for Tanya, the soldiers' hope seems all but crushed until they receive a call on the radio. Apparently, Tanya was somehow able to sneak off and bypass Stone's security system to reach them for the sake of plot convenience. She tells them that in order for them to find her, they need to disable Stone's cloaking device, which is powered by yet another generator. Piece of cake, or at least it would have been if it weren't for where the generator was located. Tanya informs him that the generator is, are you ready for this one? The generator is psychically tethered to a giant pterodactyl via alien technology. The two start making their way to the cliffs where the generator was located and waste no time scaling it to get to the pterodactyl's nest. The entire time, the flying beasts swoop in to defend their territory but are quickly dispatched as soon as they get close enough. They get to the nest and sure enough, the generator is indeed just simply there, on the back of the pterodactyl. They shoot it and it tumbles down the cliff and crashes to the ground, smashing up the generator and shutting down Stone's cloaking field. Tanya begins warning them that Stone's lab is going to be heavily guarded before being cut off by Stone himself. Stone challenges the soldiers to do exactly what they were already going to do, and then hangs up again. The two find his base and just stroll on in and get met with a Triceratops mounted with 3 laser cannons. It does not last long. After the death of the Tri-Cannon, an endless wave of raptors started pouring in from everywhere. As the narrator laid into the onslaught, Franco worked on opening the door, and eventually both of them were able to escape into the next room. They briskly walk past yet another Gatling Rex and blast open the door to the main room of the complex. As soon as they step foot inside, they get trapped and watch as Tanya is dangled in a cage over a mysterious device. Stone announces his presence over a loudspeaker and says one of the most out-of-pocket things I've heard in a while. He tries to taunt the soldiers, but ends up just saying something along the lines of,
"If you fall in there, you might become your own grandpa or something like that, I don't know, smiley face."
He then begins to ramble about the device itself, which he refers to as the Time Nexus. The Time Nexus is apparently a revised version of the device recovered from Roswell, and that it's where the dinosaurs are coming from. On cue, a group of dinosaurs come out of the machine, waiting for orders from Stone. Tanya suggests that the soldiers manage to get a pterodactyl to fly into the machine to break it, and of course, they manage to do exactly that, and the machine goes haywire. Stone, understandably upset, barges in riding a Rex with a set of cannons, Gatling guns, armor, and so much more, and proceeds to make an attempt to fight the soldiers. He loses, of course. With the Time Nexus offline and Stone being defeated, the island was finally free of the tyranny it was subjected to for so long, but the damage was already done. Dinosaurs now roam the world once again, and thus, the story of Dinosaur Hunt comes to a close. Maybe Franco, Tanya, and the narrator get off the island? Maybe they don't. Pavel didn't care enough and decided to leave us with a cliffhanger, I guess. It genuinely sucks that while this story goes off the rails and makes no sense, that it was reduced to only being told through loading screen narration. As bad as it was literally like the perfect story for a low-budget indie romp where you could explore an island and fight dinosaurs while you learn the secrets of the world around you. But instead, I have to fight past waves of raptors and other mediocre enemies just to hear the next chapter of the story. Speaking of fighting waves of raptors, I suppose it's finally time I get to talking about the rest of the game. Okay, let's make this quick. Gunplay, bad. Controls, bad. Will to live, currently missing. Alright, that about wraps up the review. See you guys whenever. Okay. In all seriousness though, there are a lot of problems here. Starting off with level design, I found the way that the levels of the campaign were designed was just plain abysmal. Like, I know that there was probably at least a crumb of effort put into it, but the organization of the levels has no coherency whatsoever. You got one level where you're in a flat barren desert and can see the dinosaurs spawn right in front of you, and then the next level you're in a mountain range with landmines spread all over, struggling to climb a hill or get a good vantage point on the oncoming horde. Overall, the levels for the campaign are mediocre and mildly playable at best, and a pain in the ass to properly fight in at worst. What's even the point of exploring the already cramped and boxed-in landscape provided when you only have a little bit of prep time at the beginning of a level to collect your bearings and hunker down? If the game had you actually hunt rather than just be a wave defense, then maybe I would have better things to say. But for each level, you essentially need to just pick your corner and pray that you can mow down everything thrown at you so you can do it again in a slightly different looking level later on. Something else about the game is the amount of customizability that they have. Part of the abhorrently complex menu UI is an options menu that allows you to set normal things like your audio levels or your FOV, but then you get the ability to completely shroud your vision with maxed out foliage or mess with the day-night cycle. You can even change the difficulty whenever you want so you can get swarmed by 30 raptors at once if that's more your style. And it's not that bad, but what's really wonky is the visual options. Oh, the visual options. You got so many different options to choose from that'll end up fucking up your field of view. You got visual overlays like night vision or thermal vision that just turn everything green or an obnoxiously bright shade of yellow and pink. There's a rain effect that just has water streaming down your screen. There's fog, there's bloom control, there's color saturation. You can turn on sun shafts, crank shadows all the way up to the max. You can even make everything cell shaded. As to whether or not any of these options are necessary for a game like this, I may never know. Personally, I found turning on every setting to the max and witnessing an unknown circle of hell to be an enthralling experience. Moving past the graphical options, the models in the game for the enemies and guns and all that are pretty okay in their unmystified form. The dinosaurs, while rudimentary, still resemble what the actual animals look like, kinda. Regardless, the models actually do look like there was at least some effort put into them. I was actually kind of impressed. Wait a minute. What's that? Is that a price tag? Oh, brother, Pavel didn't make a single one of these assets, did he? He, in fact, did not. I'm not entirely sure where everything in this game came from, but I was certainly able to track down at least a handful of listings for some of the assets featured in this game on the Unity Assets store page. Now, these assets exist for the sole purpose of being used in games like these. They get bought by some indie dev who either doesn't have the time or patience or maybe even the skill to make models of their own. I don't really have a problem with it, but I was really hoping for at least something that I could enjoy here. It was just disappointing to find out that one of the things that might have been a positive ended up being a disappointment. This disappointment is coupled with a couple of other things, that being the way the guns actually feel to use and the audio design in general for the guns and enemies. The actual gunplay itself leaves a lot to be desired, with some of the animations looking like you're shooting a pea shooter, while in other cases it seems like there's enough recoil to break all the bones in your body like they were toothpicks. That, coupled with a drastic inconsistency with bullet spread, just made for a sad experience. Even the headshots were inconsistent, with some instantly exploding the target and others feeling akin to just slapping them with a wet napkin. Because of this, a large quantity of weapons were left untouched due to low ammo count in favor of guns that did high damage and had enormous clip sizes to counteract the inconsistency. On top of that, the audio design for all of the enemies I found to be mind-numbingly annoying. All of the enemies have the same sounds for dying, attacking, general ambiance, etc. If enough of it gets stacked on top of itself, it just gets obnoxious. This annoyance is heightened by the sound design for the guns having the same issue, so the entire time you're playing, your ears are just constantly being assaulted by the same repeated sounds of stock animal noises and overtuned gunfire. All of it still overlaid with the hard rock and occasional screech of dialogue from the guy you're playing as. Basically, overall, it just created a miserable experience, where sometimes I would just have to turn the volume down or off and substitute it with something else playing on my other monitor.
Hello, everybody. My name is Markiplier, and welcome to Five Nights at Freddy's, an indie horror game that you guys suggested en masse, and I saw that Yamimash played it, and he said it was really, really good. So I'm very eager to see what is up, and that is a terrifying animatronic bear.
With all that out of the way, I think I'm finally done talking about this shitty game. Oh my god, I completely forgot about the extra modes. Of course there's extra content hidden within the fat folds of this game's numerous menus. There's actually quite a bit of stuff here that I have access to thanks to buying the special edition. Something I want to touch on for a split second before all that stuff though is multiplayer. Yeah, you heard me right. There's multiplayer to this game. Nobody of course uses it because nobody would dare think of bringing a friend along on their own personal trip to hell, but it's there. Can't say I have any experience with it, but I also feel like it shouldn't be left out. Moving on. Under the expertly named Extras tab, you can find a slew of extra modes, including... Are my eyes deceiving me? It's an honest-to-God hunting mode? Wait. How the fuck do I actually enter it? There's no launch button or anything like that, just toggleable boxes. Oh, I see. In order to actually use the stuff under the Extras tab, you instead have to go under the Play tab, and then just hit the mode that corresponds with the mode from the Extras tab. which sometimes has a different name. Wow, this menu UI actually sucks. Actually, a bit of an impromptu rant here, this UI actually really sucks. It just makes me mad for some reason how this menu is organized. Like, you could have literally saved so much space by just compacting shit here and having it actually be organized. If the extras button doesn't actually let you play the extra content, what's even the point of it existing? And why have 3 separate buttons for workshop content? Just lump them all together. Why even have a server browser and multiplayer be different too? It's just, ugh. It's bad. It's so bad. Anyways. Let's try the hunt mode and see how it is. Maybe it's like a hidden gem and I was missing out on something really good. It sucks. You get to choose from all the environments from the campaign as well as a handful of other maps that weren't featured, such as an actual ruined city or a pirate island, and then only one dinosaur gets spawned in for you to kill. The good news is that it doesn't make a beeline for your location and you actually need to explore in order to find it. The bad news is that it feels awful doing so. You can just turn off all the vegetation and spot it from a mile away most of the time, and at the end of the day, the experience doesn't feel too fulfilling and just leaves me feeling more bored than before I went in. Maybe if the map wasn't so goddamn small, and maybe if there was more than one thing to kill, I'd have a different opinion, but for right now, oof. Alongside the hunting mode, there's a slew of other modes that you can play. You got survival mode, which is just a horde wave rush type deal like the campaign, but you fight against an endless amount of enemies. There's a horde mode, which is the exact same as survival, but with a higher AI count, I guess. There's arena mode, which is an attempt at a red versus blue type mode, where you get your own dinosaurs on your side that are meant to fight against the opposing team with you, but yeah. There's also sandbox mode, which gives you unlimited ammo, quick burst, which is just the same as survival and horde, but with a shorter amount of time in between rounds. Time motion, which is admittedly probably the single best mode out of the entire game, but it's just super hot, but worse. Then finally there's Moonbase, which is just low gravity. I like that there are other modes, but I feel like some of them are just not interesting, specifically the 3 modes that are essentially the same thing with a different coat of paint. There are also 3 quote-unquote modes that you unlock by finding lifeless corpses on 3 of the maps, which unlock the ability to swap out the normal dinosaur AI with either a hell beast, mad herbivore, or hacker. They unfortunately don't change much and are really just reskins of the base assets. That being said, there exists a vile bit of content that I have yet to mention. Type of content born of greed and the desire to deliver lackluster content for an outrageous price that goes by the name of paid DLC. Yes, you heard that right. Dinosaur Hunt comes with its very own paid DLC. Luckily for me, or unluckily, depending on how you look at it, I got all the DLC included with the special edition. But if for some ungodly reason you'd want to go ahead and purchase all of the DLC for yourself, you'd be looking at somewhere around as much as the whole bundle costs. Ridiculous! This shit better be worth it isn't. The DLC ranges from why did I buy this piece of actual garbage to simple mediocrity. If for some godforsaken reason you decide you want to spend $2 on a handful of shitty guns that you'll never realistically use, well shoot dang, here's 3 different DLCs. How about the ability to change the enemies into medieval knights, gargoyles, giant spiders, or dragons? You can have them all, only $1 a piece. Still not satisfied? How about purchasing a boss fight where you can pit yourself against some of the strongest enemies Pavel could think of, such as the Brontosaurus, Carnotaurus, or Stegosaurus, also only $1 a piece. No? Yeah, I really can't blame you. These DLC are just soulless cash grabs with no real need to exist at all. I don't see any logistical reason for buying any of these outright, and if it weren't for them being lumped in automatically with the special edition, I definitely would not have purchased them for myself. Okay, I think I'm finally done. I'm beyond ready to wrap this thing up here. In conclusion, Dinosaur Hunt was a complete slog to go through from start to finish. It may have come a long way from its initial release, and while it is miles ahead of where it once was, that doesn't excuse its many faults. A lot of my problems were of my own design, but there were so many problems that come from poor design choices made by Pavel. That being said, I had an awful time playing this game. From having to repeat the same levels over and over again, to the audio design which legitimately gave me a migraine at the end. There was very little that this game had to offer that wasn't disappointing for me. Overall, Dinosaur Hunt gets a hefty whack with 3 store-bought assets out of 10. This video went on way longer than it probably should have. Hopefully I never have to do something like that for a long time. I'm so glad that that's finally out of the way. I don't know if I could handle much more of that garbage. Hopefully I covered everything important about the game. Let's see here. Tutorial, story, gameplay, graphics, bonus content, yeah, all accounted for. Whew. Wait a minute. What's that? No. No, this can't be. Surely that's not real. Hold on. You've gotta be kidding.